the oldest leadership metaphor in the world is the leader as hero. The hero arrives, perhaps out of nowhere, to lead from the front, to lead the charge, to save the day, whether that's historical figures, whether it's Superman in a comic book or Batman. The hero arrives and saves the day because they know more, they're stronger, they're braver, they're more skillful, they're more cunning. Now, in a crisis situation, that may be okay. But I don't think it's the basis for a sustained, empowering, productive, generative relationship. The leadership academic world has been full of writers for decades now saying the hero idea is finished. And yet it shows no signs of going away in reality. It's kind of wound very deep into our humanity. We want heroes because you put your trust in them. You have a hero, you don't have to do anything anymore. You have to just do what the hero says. So we can kind of unload our responsibility onto the hero. And while it's a nice idea to be able to do that, I think most of the time we're going to be disappointed. And one possible counterpoint to that is the metaphor of servant leadership, leading as a servant. Some of you will have heard of that. This idea was first put forward by Robert Greenleaf in the 1970s and 80s. And it's a lovely idea. The leader is in service to their community. The leader stewards their organisation to sustain it and pass it on. And the leader is given their power by the organisation or by the group. They don't impose their power on the group. It's a wonderful idea. I wish it was more widely used. In practice, the take-up of servant leadership has been relatively limited, unfortunately, and I think there are reasons for that. One reason is that we don't have servants anymore. Not in the way that people used to have 100 years ago. 100 years ago, people had servants. So we understood the relationship, the service relationship, what a rich, multidimensional thing that is. Another difficulty is the relationship that is implied with the idea of the leader as servant. Think about it linguistically. If the leader is the servant, then what's the counterpoint of servant? Master. Right. And so if the leader is the servant and the others are the master, then where's the accountability, one might say. Now, Greenleaf, when he put forward servant leadership, understood all this. It's a very paradoxical idea, and it's designed to get you to think. So I'm looking for another post-heroic leadership form. And on the 13th of February 2003, I was in a seminar with a German professor, Matthias Varga von Kibet, who was talking about systemic structural constellations, and he was talking about how you host a systemic constellation. And he said, there's an old Arabic proverb, he said. The host is both the first and the last. The host is both the first and the last. And I thought, that's the leader, isn't it? And I stopped listening to the seminar and started scribbling in my notebook. I think the idea of the host sits above this spectrum. Of course, hosts serve their guests, but they're also responsible for them. Of course, hosts provide and nurture their guests, but they also have a role in safeguarding them and looking after them. So the host is at one time above their guests, being responsible for them, and below their guests in service to them. And sometimes, very often, hosts serve, and occasionally hosts have to act quite heroically if there's a crisis, if something goes wrong. The host is the one who has to step forward and sort it out. So the idea of the host as leader, it seemed to me, after about half an hour of scribbling and drawing this diagram, is a fascinating metaphor. It's one that we already know at some level. We've all been hosts in some way. We've certainly all been guests in some way. We all know instinctively the difference between good hosting and bad hosting. And it's very clear and very visceral. If you went to somebody's house and they brought food out and helped themselves, piled their plates high, and then said, "Oh, I'm sorry, there doesn't seem to be very much left for you," we instinctively know that that's not good hosting, don't we? You never see it. But when the bankers come and pile their plates high with money and then say, "I'm sorry, there seems to be none left," this explains, I think, why we get so viscerally furious at this situation. It sort of breaks the rules of hosting. So we all know good hosting and good guesting. But I then spent 10 years looking into what really makes a good host, and talking to some really good hosts who are also good leaders, and some great leaders who also, I think, are good hosts, and trying to give some shape to this basic idea. And the result is this book, Host, 6 New Roles of Engagement. Not rules of engagement, it's rules crossed out, but then roles written in. The hosts take up, and they step forward in the role when it's needed, and then they step back and are alert and aware for when they need to step forward again, perhaps in a different role. You step forward, say hello, and you step back and invite them to step forward. If we're going to engage people, we need to meet them first and then give them a space to step into with encouragement and safety.